pre-report is not a reflection of your program's curriculum, okay? So it's not going to tell you anything about your impact or whether your program is good or effective, etc. It's a look at where your young people are when they begin the program and what strategies you might use to help them along the way. And so in the pre-report, there's a very specific section. The experiences section is all the way at the end. I'll show it to you when we do the exercise. All of our tools reflect the same fundamental process. We believe that young people are more likely to develop their SEL capacity when they experience specific research-based practices, okay? And so the way that adults engage with young people and implement program activities may be way more important for SEL growth than the content of the activities, right? The content of your curriculum. So it's how you implement them instead of what content you are delivering to them. And that's why all of our reports include a section for experiences, because we want to help you integrate impactful research-based practices into your program. And so while all the experiences in your report are important and interconnected, we use the advanced analytics to give you actionable recommendations to optimize your program. And so the ingredients that go into these advanced analytics are things like your young people's age, their gender identity, their ethnicity, and their pre-report SEL score. So when we look at which experiences are more likely to boost SEL growth for different subgroups across this category, we came up with something we call the potential for impact score. And the potential for impact score is something you can find in the experiences section of your report. Is this table on the left that you see here. It works like a ranking. Okay, so potential for impact scores range from 3 to 10, and higher scores indicate a stronger influence on SEL success, or a stronger potential for influence on SEL success for your young people. And higher scores are always at the top, lowest scores are always at the bottom. And as I said, the scores are based on the composition of your group. So the age of your young people, how they identify in terms of race and ethnicity, how they identify in terms of gender, and their pre-core SEL scores, the baseline basically of their capacity. All of those ingredients contribute to creating these potential for impact scores. And they vary because the composition of your group may vary. So if you're looking at a group report, the composition of your young people might change compared to your program, right? Where you are pulling more young people into a report. And that also might change if you look at sites, etc. And so these scores will vary depending on what report you're looking at. And what's important to keep in mind is that these are recommendations or insights that you can use to prioritize your efforts, your strategies, right? You might use these ranking to say, I'm going to prioritize certain experiences in my implementation of the program, or I will prioritize certain experiences when I am training and supporting my staff, okay? Now, obviously, because we want to be extremely clear, I'm going to repeat something that I said in the beginning. The pre-report, and specifically the potential for impact scores in your pre-report, don't tell you whether your curriculum is good or effective, or whether your practice right now, today, is good or effective, okay? These are only recommendations of things that we think you could implement, integrate into your program, based on how your young people identify themselves and their pre-SEL scores and their age. And so I said a lot of things. I'm pretty sure there must be some questions. And so I want to know, Manuela, Catherine, do you have any questions in the Q&A, in the chat somewhere? Something we should address right now?
we're all set to go right now.
All right, all right. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A section in your Zoom window, and we'll address them as we go. And so that's great. We have enough time for practicing. So what we'll do is I want each one of you to open a pre-report and look at the experiences section. If you don't have access to your organization's account, or you haven't started data collection, or you're not a high member, we're going to share a link to a fake report. And the numbers, by the way, don't really matter. What I want you to focus on is the research-based practices, not the numbers in the potential for impact score, okay? So I want you to open a pre-report. If you don't have a pre-report available, we'll send you a link through the chat. And I want you to focus on the engage authentically research-based practices. This will always be at the top, and I'll show you what they look like in the report. I'm going to ask you to pick one of those practices and reflect on those. And I'll show you where I want you to take notes. So let me go to one of our reports. So this is the link that we'll share with you. It's going to open up, and you're going to see a report for awesome organization, I think. And so the experiences section is always at the end. You have to scroll all the way down, and you'll see this section with experiences. You're going to see this table at the left that we highlighted in the previous slides with the potential for impact scores, and engage authentically will always be at the top. So what I want you to do is focus on these practices. So the bold text in these blocks, okay? I want you to pick one of them, only one of them, to practice right now. And then we'll send you a link to this Padlet, and I want you to answer these questions. In one sentence, how is this practice integrated into your program? And if the practice is not well integrated yet, how could you improve its implementation? Okay, here I left 2 posts as examples. You can create a post by clicking on the plus sign, then typing, let's say, the name of the practice here, and then you can write here, in my program, we okay? If you have any questions about how to use the Padlet, please ask in the Q&A. We'll help you through that as well. Yes, I'm going to delete my draft. And so to go back to the instructions, I want you to reflect. Given that we have time, we'll take maybe 7 minutes for reflection and writing. And again, I want you to pick one of those practices, reflect on whether they are integrated so far into your program and how. And if they haven't been well integrated yet, what do you think your program can do to improve their integration or implementation? And so, Manuela, Catherine, do we need to share the links in the chat, or are those already?
Those are already in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so I will leave this window open to see your notes as they come in, and in 7 minutes, I am going to read through them and we can share over the chat. If you want to raise your hand to comment and share, we'll unmute your mic so that you can share. So let's go with 7 minutes from starting right now. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. This is wonderful. This is great. All you're sharing, and while you keep or finish your contributions here on the Padlet, I just wanted to address a question that came up in the Q&A. Tracy asks or poses, we facilitate pre-survey on the first day of programming, and we serve students for 8 days straight and use paper surveys. So that means they don't really have time to enter data and see their report. And so her question is, how are others able to analyze and make choices, changes by the next day of programming? That's a wonderful question. If you don't have time, right? If you're constrained and if you will not see your pre-report by the time you want to make decisions, what I'd say in general is the potential for impact scores are a suggestion, and they vary somewhat, but we always know that engage authentically and promote peer bonds will be at the top, because these are the two foundational, or in a way, most important experiences to create an environment where you can do other things, right? And so in your case, Tracy, you and your team can actually reflect on the engage authentically and promote peer bonds practices using our reflection guides, and focus on those at the beginning of programming and decide or identify which ones are well implemented, which ones do you want to prioritize this cycle, which ones do you want to train and support your staff on, which ones seem like a better match to be integrated into your activities and which ones are not. And so that exercise would serve the same purpose as seeing your potential for impact table on the report, especially when you don't have a lot of time. All right, so there's a lot of great stuff here. There's a lot of great stuff. And let me get started by saying thank you for sharing thoughtfully and for not only sharing thoughtfully, but sharing your thoughtful practice in a way, right? Like you are thinking about this stuff. You are continuously thinking about how to better serve the young people you serve in your community, and you know, any bit of insight here is not only beautiful to see, but also very helpful to others who are looking at the Padlet. And we're going to try to create some opportunities for you all to follow up on these ideas and maybe draw ideas from other people to improve your own practice. So we have some insights here, like we integrate this practice by focusing on collaborative groups led by students and mediated by program staff. That's a great practice, great practice. And the more you implement it, the more you learn about how to effectively actually create collaborative groups with young people, right? And how adults can mediate those opportunities. At LEAP, we hold making meanings. We address where their students are and discuss the opportunities to expand on their impact to in general. Exactly. So LEAP maybe is in a different position than other organizations because you guys have the resources to, right, have internal evaluation, right? Some other organizations don't. Now, what I would draw from this is, regardless of the size of your team, it's important to hold certain moments during the year to reflect on where your young people are, where do you want to take them, right? Regardless of what your general evaluation strategy is, you want to meet and think about where your young people are, where do you want to take them, and how you think you might take them there. And the reflection guides or the practices in the report are, you know, we hope a tool you can use to design a strategy to get there. Let me look at the other column. In my program, we could keep a whiteboard to record shared thoughts, opinions, and feedback as we go through activities. That's a wonderful idea. That is a wonderful idea. And I remember a teacher doing that when I was a teenager, and it felt like I had some ownership of the class as well. And, I want to say that most young people actually feel like that when their opinions and feedback are recorded somewhere and not just lost in conversation. In my program, we have students in grades 1 through 5 all together for after school 2 days per week. We try to work small decision points into the program regularly. That's wonderful. You're training them on how to make decisions, think about what they're doing. That's exactly what I try to do with my son every day. However, it can be challenging to develop decision-making opportunities. Yes, that are relevant, manageable, and satisfying for such a broad range of ages. Yes. Perhaps we can focus more on leadership and develop a group leader system or peer buddy system, which is something. You know what? Yes, what I draw from this reflection or insight that can be applicable for anybody in this room is the practices, the way they're written in our reports are very general because we want them to be applicable across age ranges and contexts and settings, etc. Right? Now, you are going to find a flavor of that practice that works for your age range or that works for your context, right? And so what's important is to go beyond what we're writing that's very general and develop your own flavor, your own strategy, your own version of carving out time to learn and listen about young people, right? That's appropriate to your age, to your setting, etc. And that's not always easy. It takes time. It takes repetition, iteration, documentation of what you're doing, etc., and reflection. But again, the general principle is you want to stop and think about where your young people are. Where do you want to take them? What's the strategy and what's worked so far? But maybe some of the things that have worked so far are not in the list of research-based practices that we share, and that's fine, right? You have found something that's helpful, that boosts impact in your program, and that is something important to highlight and to keep in mind for the future. So I see that we only have 3 more minutes left, and I want to say that we're going to share the deck with you. We're going to share the link to this Padlet, and we're going to think about a way to follow up on this and keep this conversation alive. We will have more practice and progress sessions over the year, so don't think that we're going to forget about the good stuff you shared here. But because I don't want this session to end with just a review of your responses, I want to challenge you all. I want to call you to action, okay? So I want you to, sorry, let me go full screen here. There we go. So I want you to reflect with a colleague, okay? Or your boss or a volunteer, whoever you have next to you within the next week. Share your thoughts about the experiences in the experiences section in your report, okay? Share some of your thoughts or something interesting that you saw on the Padlet today. Ask them what they think your organization could do to integrate or improve one of the practices, the implementation of one of these practices, okay? And I want you to then update the Padlet. Okay, we're going to create, you're going to be able to create more posts after the session, and you can share with us any thoughts, any conversations, any ideas that came up during that reflection with your colleague, regardless of whether you can implement it or not, regardless of whether it's realistic or not. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what sparks came up during that conversation. And we'll use, all the content and all the insights you share to update our plans for future practice and progress sessions. And we're in time. Magically, we are in time. I want to thank you all for participating. Please reach out if you have any questions. I'll type my email in the chat in case you want to email me directly. So it's as simple as Diego@fellowinside.org. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And again, we're going to keep the conversation alive. So stay tuned. Thank you, everybody.